This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Hey, this is Jeff Thorne. I am the writer, producer, showrunner of the Avengers Black Panther's Quest TV series, and you are listening to A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily, there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words when no faith is empty. I stayed the course, though my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Journal of My Life that covers all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. Folks, we have a really big show this week. This is our annual Comic-Con week, and I can't believe that I'm actually saying that we're having this because if you guys remember, for the first time ever in history, San Diego Comic-Con International has announced that they were going to cancel the event in the midst of COVID-19 and just pretty much everything else that's been going on in this chaotic year. And unbeknownst to myself and maybe some others, I had no idea that they were going to continue to do this. And what they decided to do was, keep the show going, but at the comfort of your own home. So they just came out with, they not only just provided a slew of virtual panels, starring some of the biggest celebrities that would normally be at this event live at Ballroom 20 and Hall H and others. They got all of those people and we get to see it for free. Let me tell you right now, before anybody bitches and complain, and I'll give my rundown and what I thought of it as well on our talk topic today, because our whole entire show is pretty much just going to be covering all of this. But let me tell you, if you don't you can complain all you want. You can make, and people are going to complain, and there's going to be some people who are not going to like the results of it, and that's on them. But do understand how much hard work goes into all of this to put this together, even to this extent, even to what they have done here with doing all these virtual panels and setting it up and restructuring what they normally would do. I challenge anybody to try to do event planning of any sort and try to make that work, because I guarantee you it's going to be a big challenge for you, especially if you have no idea what you're doing or no skills or of any type of events planning at all. It is so much easier said than done. So I commend San Diego Comic-Con International, or Comic-Con International, I should say, for doing what they did, because one, two things you got to understand. They went all out to do this. Two, they're not getting anything for this. I mean, in terms of like ticket sales, badge sales, and all this stuff, they're not getting anything. We get to see all this content for free. all of their panels, all of the panels that I would normally see or you would normally see at a San Diego Comic-Con convention, we get to see them virtually in the comfort of our own home for free. So that means they're losing a lot of money, a ton of money in sales, because hundreds of thousands of people would come to San Diego Comic-Con every year from around the world. Those who get the opportunity to go in and get those badges and is able to actually, enjoy this and take a trip. I've been there twice, and trust me, that's a $6,000 trip. Well, $6,000 because, my wife went with me. So in combined, that's hotel stay, that's badges, that's, money for exclusives, money to eat, whatever. That's a lot of money. And the airplane travel, round trip, that's all of that. There's a lot of loss in this by them doing this, or not even at all. So what they did was they got all of the same major celebrities and major people to be a part of this, and they end up doing their own virtual panels. And trust me when I tell you this, there's some loss. I know some of those panels, especially when you talk about the cast of the New Mutants and the Family Guy cast and all that stuff. There's money involved in that, not gaining, losing. They're paying a lot of these people to do these panels. So trust me when I tell you, it's a big loss on them, but it's a loss that they felt that they wanted to do to give us, some type of comfort and some type of way of, enjoying ourselves during these quarantine times. And I absolutely, before I even give my rundown and review of everything that happened, good or bad, I want to thank them for doing that. That is unbelievable what they did. They went all out to do this. They are true fans of us as we are to them. And that needs to be said. That absolutely needs to be said. Now, this whole entire episode will talk about the rundown on a lot of the things that have happened. Not everything, because if you've gone to San Diego Comic-Con before, you know that you can never do everything. And even from a virtual standpoint, you can't do everything, because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of panels that you can watch. And there's just not enough time. There's just really not enough time. Even now that we're at our home and we're not traveling, there's still not enough time, because you can watch all of these. And that was the beauty part. And we'll talk about the positives and the negatives of the entire thing when we get to that point. There won't be too much news in the world of A.C.M.G. There is 3 bits of news that I will talk about real quick, so I'm not even going to waste any more time. Let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, so unfortunately, we got to start off the news, and the only news that we pretty much have that it's pretty much sad news here. We lost 2 legendary figures in Hollywood, and one of them is the one and only Regis Philbin, who was the talk show host for Regis and Kathy Lee, and then Regis and Kelly for so long, and you've seen him in virtually everywhere, from movies to TV shows, and even professional wrestling, because he was a big wrestling fan. He started off that. A lot of people don't know. Just listen to Wrestling Observer radio actually, with Dave Meltzer, and he was talking about how Regis used to have Freddie Blassie, Classy Freddie Blassie, back in the day on his talk show before he even got to that Kathy Lee talk show. And he would always be a big fan of him and always have wrestlers going in. And, when he started working with ABC and Regis and Kathy Lee show, he even brought in wrestlers there. And there was apparently an incident that involved, the late, great, ravishing Rick Rude that Kathy Lee wasn't happy with. And, that was one of those situations there. But you've seen him in WrestleMania for a few years, but as well. And, he's just everywhere. He's such an iconic character or person, I should say, but in some cases a character too. But he's so iconic in the sense that wherever you see him, if it's rather on wrestling, if it's on a talk show, if it's on TV as a cameo appearance, or on a movie as a cameo appearance, he's never playing the role of a character. He's always himself. That's when you know you're iconic. When like you're so big, it's impossible to play another character. Like you're Regis Philbin. That's a big deal. So, rest in peace and thoughts and prayers to the family of him as well. And I believe he died. It was an unfortunate heart attack, and I believe they said he was 80 or in his 80s or 88 or something of that nature. But yeah, he's an awesome dude. He will be missed absolutely. And a lot of people, he's one of those guys that said, that a lot of people said that he was a class act. Even D.L. Hughley on his Instagram account said that, this guy was a total class act. Now, if D.L. Hughley says that a white man is a class act, that says a lot, because not to say that D.L. Hughley is anti-white, but like, he will tell you straight if somebody's legit or not. So that speaks volumes on that note right there. So, he will be missed. He will absolutely be missed. And there aren't that many people like Regis Philbin. Yeah, no, not a lot of people at all. So rest in peace to that legend right there. Another big loss is in the name of John Paxson. A lot of you that are listening may not know that name, but if you're old school like me, you know him very well. If you're a Bruce Lee fan, especially. But he was most famously known for his role in Enter the Dragon and Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And I do believe he made another appearance in one of the later Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So, he made an appearance on both of those. And yeah, he's a guy that people loved on that movie. Like Enter the Dragon, he was an interesting character in there. He was a great character in there. And I really got to watch that movie again. That movie is so awesome. But he wound up, the cool part about him, and I think that what made everybody love him so much, is because the characters that he played were really cool. He was, Jim Kelly was in that movie too, and him and Paxson's characters were best friends. And when he saw that Jim Kelly got killed by Han, he was pissed. And I think that was the more endearing things. And I think I guess credit to Bruce Lee, because he wrote the movie, I believe, as well. And he wrote that in, that they were best friends and all the stuff. And that really spoke volumes for the time frame of that movie, that they were, had this relationship and friendship together. And, in the midst of, everything that was going on during those times as well. So that was an awesome thing that they had that. And I think that made him a lot more lovable of a character in that movie. And then he was getting his revenge in that movie as well. So, rest in peace to him. And again, thoughts and prayers go out to the family of him, and he will be missed. I mean, but Enter the Dragon will always live on forever as a classic, as a time-honored classic, and he's a big part of that. So the only other news that I have at this point before we go to the talk topic, and which is going to transition right into the talk topic, this is actually segueing into it, is Zack Snyder. Probably the biggest news in terms of comic book news and Comic-Con weekend, because, Marvel Studios, I should say, didn't make a huge appearance on there. And I guess they're waiting that out until next year, maybe, because there was so much going on. And Marvel Studios at San Diego Comic-Con is the equivalent of Sony at E3. If those franchises are not there, those companies are not there, they are the main event. They always had the best news, the best presentations, everything. If they're not there, it kind of takes away just a bit of the con experience. And there was one year at San Diego Comic-Con, I think 2018, that they weren't there, and then they came back in 2019. It was eons different of the atmosphere that happened during that time. So enters Zack Snyder, who reveals Henry Cavill in the Snyder Cut. He gave away a little bit of a clip of the Snyder Cut, which shows Superman wearing the black suit. Now, this black suit is reminiscent of the death of Superman. He wore something similar to that in the comics, and there lies this situation, which for some reason got cut out during Joss Whedon's version. It was been said by Snyder that he does not want one clip that Joss Whedon made on this cut. Like, everything is going to be his and his alone. So yeah, the stakes are getting higher for this. I believe this is coming out in 2021, and this is the time when that comes out. No doubt, I will be investing in HBO Max without a doubt, because I am looking forward to the more. Now that I saw that suit, now granted, this still doesn't say whether this movie will be any different or any good, because people absolutely forget that there was a movie prior to this called Batman vs. Superman that was done by Zack Snyder. And although it was visually stunning, it was beautiful. That's the one thing you could never say about Zack Snyder's movies. They are a cinematic masterpiece, a work of art in its own right. Like, nobody's doing what Zack Snyder doing visually. But when it comes down to the writing process, like, I think Batman vs. Superman is not one of my favorites at all. I did like Man of Steel, so I mean, it's a hit or miss with him, because I love all of his other stuff. The Watchmen was great. 300, I believe he worked on, was great. Batman vs. Superman was bad. Sucker Punch, I can't stand that movie. I cannot stand that movie. I don't even want to talk about it right now. Zack Snyder is a hit or miss guy. He's a hit or miss guy, and it's quite possible that this may not be to the expectations. I think this could be a possibility where people overhype it and get too overly excited about it, and it turns out not to be what it is, and then people are getting disappointed by it. So we will see. But for the most part, I am a fan of Zack Snyder, but I do recognize that Zack Snyder doesn't always, get a hit out there. He doesn't have a perfect record. But I can't wait to see this. And I'm looking forward to it, but it's getting more exciting as they're going on, and the hype is real. Can this save the DC film universe? It brought Ben Affleck back, for God's sake, and all the other cast back. So let's see. We'll find it out. Well, folks, we can't waste any more time. We're going to take a break, come back, and we're going to run down a lot of what happened during this weekend of San Diego Comic-Con's Comic-Con at Home virtual panels. We'll do that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mike Moe from Street Fighter Assassin's Fists. You are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live.
Os. Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Fight!
Folks, welcome back to the oven. That is my office right now. It is 80-something degrees, but you know what? It would be much hotter in the West Coast right now if I was at San Diego Comic-Con. We are here in our talk topic today to talk about the rundown of shows that has been contributed and given to us graciously by San Diego Comic-Con this year. And they went virtual just like everybody else. But unlike everybody else, they're giving it all away for free. And I know Wizard World has done it too, but I feel like San Diego Comic-Con has done it in a way that it just felt like it was just bigger. Now, granted, was it all perfect? No. But again, this is just one of those things that I feel like they did a great job in, and it'll be interesting to see how much they were able to do with this in terms of any type of benefit, financial benefit or something. Because, like I said at the beginning, they're not getting any pay or proceeds from this year because they canceled. So rather, they still had the money from people who decided to just wait till next year, when they go live, quote unquote, knock on wood, or they just lost people all the refunds that they had. That's a situation right there too. But this, make no mistake about it, this is a huge financial loss for this company. So they decided to take it upon themselves to give it to us for free. Everything. Give us a taste, especially for those who never been to San Diego Comic-Con. And yeah, this is not the full experience per se, but at least it gives you a taste of what happens during these situations and the type of panels that they normally have. Now, I can definitely confirm that a lot of the panels that they had for, virtually here this weekend are the same panels that they would have live. There is a big contrast to this, though. There are some positives and negatives to it. It's more negatives than positive, I'm afraid. But overall, it was a great experience. It was a really great gesture that they did. And for the most part, I enjoyed it. But there's that one situation that it's blatantly obvious. It's very transparent, and that's just being able to experience it all. But I mean, let's talk about the benefits of this virtual panel, because there is a silver lining to doing virtual panels in this extent, especially if you've been to San Diego Comic-Con before, because there's a difference. There is a difference between going to a normal convention in your city, especially those local indie conventions. There's a difference between that and going to what is considered the mecca of all things anime, comics, movies, and games. And I will add on to cons like New York Comic Con as well. That's like rivaling San Diego Comic Con in terms of attendees and such. So the difference here is that when you wait for a line for a panel, in local cons, you don't wait in line for panels. You just go. There's always going to be a seat at a local con for panels or stuff like that. There's never going to be that huge, insanely huge line of people waiting to get in to see a really exclusive guest that's going to be talking about their movie or TV show. That ain't happening. But at San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con, to some extent, Wizard World used to have that too. Last time Chris Evans and Haley Atwell and Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Shaw were there. It was a huge crowd for that. Same with Tom Holland. Tom Holland last year when he came to Keystone Comic Con, I was out at 5 a.m. in the morning. We didn't get in there till 10 a.m. in the morning, and I was press. Nobody got into that line, okay? Not even press. So that right there was one thing. So you're going to be waiting in long lines. And God forbid, if you're in Hall H, there are people who camp out at Hall H. There are people who go on Facebook groups to set up and plan when they're going to be in line and make sure that everybody gets in line. This is how strategic it has to be at San Diego Comic-Con. Like, this is real. This is some real-ish. Okay? I've yet to go to Hall H. I can't find myself to want to dedicate all the time that I have over there just to go into the panel. Now, granted, one of those panels are the Marvel panels. So, those are kind of worth waiting for, but at the same time, you're going to sacrifice a lot of time of going to see other things and buying other things and doing, because you're going to be there in the morning, and the lines are miles long. I have pictures that I've taken of, God bless my camera. Love that. My Canon camera killed that year in 2017. I got it, and to some extent 2014 as well, but long lines. I did a little video documentary of my experience, my first experience with this a long time ago, and man, it was an event. It was an event. I had no idea that those lines were that long, and it was like miles long, like at least probably 2 miles long. Now, take note, 2 miles is about like 5 blocks. So, and Hall H apparently can fit an enormous amount of people. And once you're in there, you're not coming out. Like, you need to bring in whatever food that you have. There are bathrooms within the hall once you're there. Yeah, you're just not gonna. That's the plan. You're not coming out. You're gonna be there for hours on end, checking out all these different panels. If you leave, somebody's gonna take your spot, and you won't be able to get it back. That's how it goes. So that the benefit that you won't have to wait in line for stuff like even Ballroom 20 and other panels, even the smaller panels in San Diego Comic-Con, you had to wait into some type of line. So that's a benefit right there that you don't have to wait in line. But at the same time, I tell you this. There is something special about waiting in line. Is you know, if you're walking around forever and you're standing around, it takes a toll on you. And the older that you are, the worse it is too. But it does take a toll on you. But like, just still getting the chance to want to see one of your favorite people live, it is worth it. Like, I can tell you now, both times that I went to go see Jim Lee live. To see Jim Lee live and seeing him sketch and draw live, and it's to me, it was like a rock concert. It was like a legit rock concert, and it was awesome. So there, I mean, yeah, I talk about, you know, standing in long lines, but that is a benefit and not so much a benefit at times of that. But, you know, you don't have to wait in line to see these things. You can watch it in the comfort of your home. So that's one thing. If you missed one of the scheduled panels that runs at the same time as another panel that you had, that also is a benefit too, because you can watch it later on YouTube now. There was a time, if this was still a live event, how it works is that the best thing, and this is how I was taught, is that you need to schedule ahead at the panels what you want. You don't just go, when you go into San Diego Comic-Con, you don't just go into San Diego Comic-Con and just like, what am I going to do now? No, you need to plan. I never did anything like this until I started going to San Diego Comic-Con. You have to plan ahead, like before you even pack up your bags, before you even, you know, go on a plane, before you even get there, before all of that. When you know that you're going, you need to find out what panels are going to be there, what exclusive booths are going to be there, because there's going to be a long line for the booths of the exclusives that you're going to be. And if you're not there on time, I'm going to tell you, one of the hottest sellers there always is usually Transformers. If you're not in the Hasbro line, chances are you could possibly lose out in getting any of that stuff. So you got to be careful. You have to plan ahead. This time around, you don't. And when it came to panels, you know, there was always going to be a panel that you wanted. There was going to be like at least one or two panels that you wanted to see that were scheduled at the same time. So you had to decide on which panel that you wanted to see more and which one you were going to lose out on. And that was the strategy right there. This time, though, because it's on YouTube, you can watch all of them. If you have the time of the day to do it. And I found out that is not the case, even though I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Now I can see all these panels anytime I want, which is cool, but not in one day. You cannot, because a lot of these panels are usually an hour. Some of them probably even more. Like, if you guys remember when I hosted the Naruto panel a few weeks ago, that was a 2-hour panel. It was meant to be one, but they extended it and we just kept going and having a lot of fun doing it. So, yeah, it's very strategic. It's like, people don't understand. Like, San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con are the real deals. This is not just about like having fun. It's about making sure you plan to have fun and strategically have fun like you should. So now, here are the negatives to this. The negatives is basically a lack of the atmosphere itself, and just, just to be in those halls, those very well air-conditioned halls, I might want to say as well. Extremely, like the San Diego Convention Center is one of the best convention centers I've ever been in. And I've been in a few in different states, especially I believe Maryland, because I graduated in Maryland when I graduated from college and stuff. And it's just the atmosphere, just seeing so many people enjoying themselves. the cosplayers. We'll talk about that in just a sec because I want to separate that from there. But I just want to mention, there's no way you can't mention it. Just seeing so many happy faces and everybody just having the same positive vibe. You never see anybody want to start any trouble at virtually any comic book convention. I've never been to a comic book convention where anybody wanted to start trouble, even if the smaller ones. The idea is that you want to have fun. And when it comes to San Diego Comic-Con, you spent so much money. You invested a lot of money in there. Damn if you're going to get kicked out. So nobody wants that. Everybody's very kind and sweet and nice. And I feel like this is the way the world should be. If people saw the way people act during San Diego Comic-Con, and I haven't yet to be at New York Comic-Con, and unfortunately that won't be the case this year either, you will see how beautiful people are when they're enjoying this great moment, and you're getting these great moments. So that part is missing, and we won't get that part. Hopefully we'll get that in 2021, because I think that's such an important thing that is missing, and that's what made one of the biggest things that makes this convention so great. Again, attending live panels is no doubt much better. Like I just mentioned, the Jim Lee panel, like I almost treated that like people treat a Metallica concert, where you're about to you throw up a lighter. Seeing him sketch, Batman and Wonder Woman sketches in person, and you idolize this guy as one of your favorite artists for years, and to see him draw Batman and Wonder Woman and a whole bunch of other people in person, it's just phenomenal. Another one, I'll give a shout out to my man, to the musician of the show, the rapper of the show, Mega Ran. Mega Ran every year goes to San Diego Comic-Con and hosts what is called the Hip Hop and Comics panel. I've missed out in 2014 to go there. I didn't make it back in 2017 and was determined to see it. I actually still have his ticket that he gave me to go see his concert, which I unfortunately never got to see, but I made it up. Trust me. I made that up in stride throughout the years. He's now the person that you hear every week on this show for doing the Talk Time Live theme song. I've been to a ton of other of his other events, and man, if you get a chance, go check out Mega Ran perform. He's awesome. He's just absolutely awesome. There's a reason why he's getting all the accolades that he gets, and the reason why he's associated with people in the WWE and such. It's just absolutely he's awesome, dude. Just all together. Raheem is the man. I'm so happy to have met him and have him be a part of my journey here with A.C.M.G. and Talk Time Live as well. But the hip hop and the comics and hip hop and comic combination panel was really good, and we'll talk about that because they did a virtual one as well this year. Other negatives, I would say the technical issues with Zoom. I don't think it's as much as the problem with it might be because some people are good with Zoom and some people aren't good with Zoom. Like I watched a few panels where the audio and stuff was bad. I have Zoom myself, but I opted out of ever using Zoom for interviews, and I was looking to use Zoom for interviews. I also have Microsoft Teams, which is actually the next level Skype, pretty much. Honestly, when it comes to video and such, much better, much better than Zoom. Zoom's great, but their audio is not as good. And the fact that I have a Blue Yeti mic and it doesn't work on air as much, it just says a lot. And then I felt better when I watched some of these panels and some of the issues that they were having as well. So the Zoom panel is not perfect. And I think some other people were using other streaming, meeting apps like Teams or such as well. Ooh, excuse me. But that was one thing. That was a whole nother issue right there. But we'll be talking about that when we talk about some of the panels down the line. Let me see. Buying exclusives. That's a big deal too. Now, they are selling exclusives online, but I don't know to what extent that people are actually doing it, because the deal is that that was the other big thing about San Diego Comic-Con is the exclusives and being at the event to grab them in the palm of their hand. And as I'm saying that, I'm looking to my right and I'm seeing a bunch of exclusives that I got. The Spider-Man exclusive that I have that was made by Square Enix. This really cool super deformed Iron Man that I have. I mean, there's so many different exclusives that you could only get there, you know. And of course the Spider-Man Collector's Edition that I have. So I mean, now what the deal is that they are selling exclusive figures that you could only get on San Diego Comic-Con, but the idea is like it's not really exclusive anymore because everybody's able to get it. So technically it's not an exclusive. Exclusives were the toys or figures or collectibles, I should say, that you could only get if you go to the con. So technically it's not really an exclusive anymore because now everybody has a chance of getting it. And again, this is a taste of what you would get if you would be there. So I do respect that, but I'm wondering to what sense how many people have actually rather invested in exclusives this year. And I guess you still have to say exclusives, but it's not really exclusive. You know, how many people were able to, invest and benefit from the exclusive collectibles that they had this year? Because you got to remember, this is still, regardless, well, you know, we get out of the bubble, this is still 2020, which means COVID-19 has affected a lot of people, which they lost their jobs and they lost their opportunity to earn any money and the money that they earn. I don't know if they're going to go for things like exclusives from Comic-Con. And then down the road, this is without the conversation I had on the Select Start video game podcast in regards to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series 1. You know, will people be benefiting from this? You know, that's going to be the question right there that we're going to be asking. And I somehow, some way, I got to find out to see the sales of this and whether it, worked out. But there was not only that, just to be able to get all that there as opposed to ordering it online and then we have to wait and have it all sent. Because here's the part that's even more screwed up. You're not getting it from Amazon. You're getting it from other companies. And we don't know how they're shipping it. We don't know how it's going to be done. There's so much going on. Here's a problem. I have a mask that I brought, a really high, well, I don't know how high level this mask is, but it's supposed to be a really, I spent, I think about like $25-$30 for this mask because I want to use it to ride bikes. It took me months. A couple months actually to get this mask. It was supposed to come yesterday. It still didn't come. So, between USPS and UPS and for God forbid if they use FedEx, which I highly wouldn't recommend, you got to worry about that. So it's not going to be a perfect thing. And I don't know if people want to or we're going to invest in that situation. So that's going to be the issue right there. And then there's the other benefits of buying exclusives. For instance, sometimes when you get certain things, you meet certain people that you want to meet. Again, I'm pointing at the Spider-Man that I'm looking at to my right here, which is a collectible figure. It's a collectible statue of Spider-Man, but done by Scotty Young. It was one of his collector series. Not only I came in. One of the things that I came in 2017 was I want to get one of those Scotty Young figures. And I didn't, whether it was going to be Iron Man or Captain America, because of I love the X-Men versus Avengers, series that he did. It was called X-Men versus Avengers Giant. I love that book. And I love everything that Scotty Young has done. Not only did I get a figure, but I got a Spider-Man figure that I had no idea that was even up for sale. So that was a really cool thing. And then to top it off, I talked to the guy that I was buying it from. And I was like, yo, I'm a huge fan of Scotty Young. So the fact that they got a Spider-Man Scotty Young here, that is awesome. Then the guy is just like, yeah, you want to meet Scotty Young? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, look to your left. The guy right next to him just happened to be Scotty freaking Young. I was floored. I was so floored I got to meet the one and only Scotty Young. Not only did I get to meet him, I got to take a picture with him, and he signed the statue as well. You don't get that experience virtually. Okay, that is, you absolutely can't compare that damn experience. Let me give you another one. Yoshinori Ono, the executive director and producer of Street Fighter. He is always there every year. Every year he was there to sign all autographs for posters, or anything that you want related to. I got the exclusive metal cards that had Ryu and Ken on there, and then you get an extra one, which I got a T-Hawk here. And these are exclusive collectibles that you won't get anywhere else. They're limited editions. And on top of that, he signed it. I have it framed and hung up in my office right now. Not only that, I got a picture with him taking it and him holding up his Blanka figure. And on top of that, he signed my Nintendo Switch, which at the time it was very young, and it's 2020 and that thing's still going. So there's the longevity of how well the Nintendo Switch is there. And even when that thing burns out, I'm just going to hang it up because he signed it. So it's just going to be sitting there. But for that, credit to that, because I got that thing on I got it, I think on 2017, and it's 2020. That thing's still going. It's still going strong. So kudos to Nintendo for that. So yeah, I got that. And then I forgot, prior to this, in 2014, I met Long Vo for the first time ever. Who I learned later on that is he's the founder of Udon Entertainment. He sketched a Ryu illustration for my Capcom illustration book, which I still have to this day. And not only that, not realizing years later, just last year, 2 years after that, or 4 years after that, I guess, that I will be doing a panel with Long Vo and Fred Tatasciore, because I would see Fred Tatasciore at the Marvel animated panels at San Diego Comic-Con, and I was always loved. He was one of the favorite people to watch, and lo and behold, I did a panel with him last year. So I mean, these type of situations are absolutely unforgettable. You cannot beat that watching it on virtual. The other thing is like not getting to walk around and see all the great sights, because I'm here in Philadelphia. So taking a flight, cross country and seeing the beautiful sights of San Diego, and not only just that, but whatever they have in the conventions, there's always some big monuments or whatever. Just a lot of money is being invested and spent in San Diego Comic-Con, not just from international themselves, but also the companies, the vendors themselves. I remember watching and seeing a life-size action figure of Goku. It was a life-size model of Goku doing a Kamehameha wave. Like, you just don't see stuff like that anywhere else, except for maybe New York Comic-Con. And just seeing that, actual props from movie costumes from Marvel Studios, you get to see that. And not only a great place to eat, there was a great taco spot that was like up the street further ways up from the convention center. And just once the convention center is closed, it's just like a party atmosphere down there. You don't get that in your home. You just don't. It's unfortunate, but you don't get that when you're at home. And one of the coolest parts, possibly bumping into celebrities or two on your way. I can attest to this. Mike Moe and the cast of Street Fighter Assassin's Fist on 2014, when Street Fighter Assassin's Fist was like the hottest thing out at the time. I managed to bump into Mike Moe in the cast and got in touch with him. Then throughout the weekend, we kept bumping into each other. He recognized me on the spot and said hi. Later on, he wound up being a guest on my podcast. And later on after that, he wound up doing some really cool other things, including, unfortunately, being a cast member in Inhumans. But to me, was like one of the best things that happened in Inhumans. He played Trident on air. But then later on, he got a bigger opportunity to be in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which got rave reviews, especially for his role as Bruce Lee. And even Brad Pitt at one of the award ceremonies, I forgot which one it was, shouted him out majorly for that. And just awesome. Jeffrey Thorne, another one. I was there in 2017 when he was when he actually when they announced him at the animation panel that he was going to be doing Black Panther's Quest. We met there, and we've been talking ever since. He's been on the show 3 times. I might actually get him 4th because we got some steam to let out. I can tell you that. So he may be back again. Trust me. This may be you may get a 4th appearance from Jeffrey Thorne. But talking about his journey, as a black producer, showrunner, and a comic book writer. Just one of these awesome things that I got to do. I remember the first year. One of my first interviews was with Bruce Timm of Batman and Justice League Unlimited and Justice League fame. And it's also one of my biggest botches ever because when I interviewed him, I didn't have my microphone on. So all you see is him talking, but there is no audio in there. And I laugh at that every time. And, I can happily say that I made up for that now. But back then I was like, this sucks so freaking bad. So we never got that actual footage of Bruce Timm talking about certain things questions that I asked, but he was very nice and I got to take the picture with him as well in there. But just stuff like that, just things like that you can't get by just staying home. And it's unfortunate because of COVID-19. And there's a part that I'm going to blame COVID for this. There's another part I'm going to blame us. And I mean us as in us as people in our country who don't want to listen, who don't want to wear a mask, who want to make it a political thing. And had we probably been wearing masks from the get-go and socially distancing ourselves, we probably would have gotten this. We probably would have gotten New York Comic Con. We probably would have gotten Keystone Comic Con. But people want to not listen. People want to turn this into a political thing like they did with the kneeling thing in NFL with Colin Kaepernick. I mean, it's just weird. I won't get into that. I digress. The other one too, and again, I said missing Hall H and Ballroom 20. That experience. That's say what you will. It does take. It does, like, they're long lines, but once you're in there, you don't regret it. Ballroom 20 is the second best hall in that theater, in that entire place, and it's huge. So Ballroom 20 is huge. You can only, I've been in Ballroom 20 many a times. I can't even fathom how big Hall H is in comparison because they said that one was absolutely huge. So, and, lastly is the loss of cosplay, which is a major, and you could tell how bad this is. That atmosphere is missing major. I feel so bad for the cosplay community because this is the year that they're usually their time to shine. And a lot of them will tell you that this is part of their sanity, part of their comfort, part of their expression, part of their identity and being a cosplayer. Cosplaying is an art form. And not being able to do your art in the way that you normally do it, to have people see and admire, that's hard. I have Rebecca Ryan here on a few months back talking about all this and how it has affected her and all the things that she won't be able to do. She was going to be at Keystone, but that's not happening anymore either. Hopefully it will happen next year, but that it's just sad. It's just really sad because a lot of work goes into a lot of the cosplayers. And I can't, like I said, I've never been to New York Comic Con yet, but I can tell you, I've seen some of the greatest cosplay costumes I've ever seen in person. And I have a lot of pictures of cosplaying, some really authentic cosplay concepts. It is just awesome. And man, it's just and to see Rebecca's costumes and concepts and for her to be the winner of those, that speaks volumes of that as well. So that's what you have with all that there. I mean, but again, credit to Comic-Con International. They could have just said, like, we're just going to wait till next year. No, they instead just say, we're going to keep going. We're going to find a way to entertain people during these times. And we're going to make the best of it. And that they did. They absolutely did. We got to see a ton of different panels, which you can see right now on YouTube. You can catch up and see it right now and check it out. I myself put out the top 10 virtual panels to look out for on the days of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the reason why I didn't pick Sunday and why I'm doing the panel on Sunday, no disrespect, but the best panels are usually Friday, Saturday, and then some extent Thursday. It goes off, but by Sunday, it's like, it's not really that. There's still panels there, but it's not really in terms of like panels that they're going to be invested in by everybody, or it's going to be exclusive news or whatever. It's mostly for niche crowds and fans of those type of panels and stuff like that. So I opted out of even mentioning those right there, but let's talk about Thursday. Let's just talk about some of the ones on Thursday. So I'll just run it down. Maybe some of them I will stop to talk about that I watched. I did see the Marvel Storyboard panel, which had Joe Quesada on there talking about this new show that he has, which I believe is on YouTube. And he talked about how he ventures out to different areas to, get an understanding of what they're writing and for their characters. So instead of just writing fictional, content with some made up things that doesn't hold merit, they're traveling to these areas to learn more about certain aspects of what the character shouldn't tell in their direction. And they go to great lengths to do it. I mean, like, he's traveling to, like, it looks like the Himalayas or whatever, or Antarctica or whatever. He's traveling different areas. He's also meeting different celebrities. He met the actress who plays Yo-Yo on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're, doing some things. The first episode has Hugh Jackman on there, which he met for the first time ever. So they're doing some things on there. And each episode is going to have a different celebrity with a different thing that he's doing. If you watch, Netflix shows like Chef with Jon Favreau, as he goes to different, areas to interview different chefs and whatnot, it's kind of like that. It's that type of situation. And there's always going to be a celebrity every once in a while that'll join him. It's that type of format. So I haven't watched the actual show yet, but what I loved about this is that, this is Marvel, so they're going to be quality. A lot of these panels are pre-taped. A lot of them are. Majority of them are pre-taped and produced. And that was the great part, is that, so it tells me that they've already had this in mind, that this was already working in the works prior to the minute that they decided to cancel the event. And I liked the way that Marvel's storyboard panel was. It looked very professional. The video quality was there. Everything was tight. So it was pretty damn good. I like what they did with that. There was also the Cartoon Network Studios first look. You got to see some, I guess, new shows or a new season of shows there. The Duncanville cast I have not got a chance to watch, but I have now the option of watching it on YouTube. So I will go back and watch that. A look inside Marvel 616 on Disney Plus. I have not watched that yet. But I actually, did I? No, it was the other Marvel panel that I saw, which was on Friday, I believe. Artist Boot Camp by DeviantArt. I did see that. It had another guy that I got a chance to meet to do a panel with Longvo, and that was Chamba. So, he was doing, he along with other artists were doing that one. That was a really good one, too. Very well produced on that. IDW, which is a comic book company that focuses on a lot of 80s nostalgic, books, did Snake Eyes with Rob Liefeld. I have not watched that, but I was intending to watch that too. I did, however, see the cast of the New Mutants panel, and I gotta say, I'm excited about watching this movie whenever it finally comes out, which they're saying is coming out in August 22nd. I don't know whether that is, because they put a big question mark on that as well. But the funny part about it, at the beginning of the panel, which again, you can watch now on YouTube, they have all of the dates that they were going to come out, and then they scratch it out, and then they keep starting the music and restarting the music every time. So the last time that they said it was August 22nd, and they put a big question mark on there. They said, fingers crossed on there. So I love this panel too, because one, it was very well done. It was very well produced. I think this panel, they were using Microsoft Teams, and because I do believe one of the features that you could do on Amazon, Teams that you can't do on Zoom, I believe, is upload files that everybody can see on there. So the the moderator, which by the way, I hate the fact that I forgot that guy's name, because he was a African American dude, a brother, who I was really happy to see. I was like, oh, my man, he came. Not only did my man come in there and host it and did a great job hosting it, he came correct. The whole entire panel was awesome. It looked great. It sounded great. It didn't look bad at all. It was top quality. And I was very happy to see that my man was on there, and he was a brother, and he was just like, he was very professional, and he was great. He was absolutely awesome. I got to get his name. I thought he did a phenomenal job hosting this with the cast of the New Mutants, and the director of New Mutants was along with that as well. So they were able to do a lot of really cool things on this panel. They showed hashtags of each character in the movie. We got a clip of the movie on there as well. Again, very well produced. And then they showed a lot of artwork from fans. I mean, some really, really great artwork from fans out there that they did in anticipation of this movie. And I think this movie may be good. From what I'm seeing, I think this, which technically is the last Fox X-Men movie, I think this is going to make it. When we finally see it, hopefully it'll be worth the wait. So, the thing is that too, I think what they're doing is that they're waiting out to see if people can see it in theaters. And I was once questioning, why not just put it on digital and for digital distribution or stuff like that. But I do realize that there, technically every household is 1 to 5 people. So if they put it on every household, they're losing money on 4 of those people, because those other 4 people could possibly go to the movies, and that means that's each budget per person plus food and all this stuff there. So they are losing a ton of money doing this, and I get that. So that's why all these movies are holding out right now, because they want to try to get as much profit as possible after doing all this and getting that money back. So I even said that like Black Widow would instantly get money, but then I didn't think about the aspect of the statistics of this of that feature. So yeah, that's why a lot of these movies are waiting out. Lesson learned on me after I figured that out. So that's a situation. So hopefully it will come out in August, or even they'll do it in August for theaters. And I know some movies are doing both. They're doing it out for theaters, but then they're also doing digital as well for those who just want to do it at home. So hopefully that's the case with that. You also had the Untold Tales of Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane did 2 or 3 panels this entire weekend. So I got to check it out, because I want to see if he mentioned anything about Spawn, which I don't think he did, because that would have been everywhere by now. That would have been viral if he mentioned that movie's coming out or whatever like that. So I still got to go back and watch it, because I want to see even if he mentioned anything about Mortal Kombat and what he thought about, Spawn Juice in Air, which I thought was awesome in that game, in a long time coming. Then you had The Boys. The Boys panel is possibly one of my favorite panels of the entire weekend. And a lot of that is due to one of my all-time favorite panelists, that is Aisha Tyler of Archer. And she always does so awesome, whether it's virtual or live. She is the best, bar none. And what's great about this is that they not only talked about the show and gave some clips of what's going to happen, which this is coming, I think, in early September. Yeah, I think September 2nd or something of that nature. Not only did they talk about that, but they also gave two huge announcements. One, which brought the creators of the show, which was Seth Rogen, which I love. Excuse me. I love Seth Rogen. I absolutely love Seth Rogen, and so much so, almost broke my own rule here, but love Seth Rogen, and he's one of the creators of it. I forgot who the other guy was, but they announced that even before season 2 was coming out, They already been approved for renewal for a season 3. I guess the executives of Amazon Prime love the series so much. Aisha Tyler said she saw the entire series early, so she said it was awesome. I know it's going to be awesome because the first season was just phenomenal. They already been renewed for season 3. That's insane. I haven't seen anything like that since Riverdale. Riverdale, when it first came out, the show was so huge and it's so popular in the first season that it was already approved for its second season before it even started. Or was it the second season into the third before it even started? And I can tell you how big that is because I've seen the lines at San Diego Comic-Con for Riverdale, which was insane at the Warner Brothers booth. So, kudos to them. And the second big announcement that they made was that there will be a aftermath show for The Boys that is starring Aisha Tyler herself. So she's doing the Chris Chadwick role here. And I think you couldn't have found a better host. Aisha Tyler, for those of you who don't know, she stars in Archer. She also has been in a ton of movies. A ton of shows. She a phenomenal comedian. Love her stand up. And she's infamously known for being one of the majorly focused black women, one of the only black women that was focused and featured on Friends. And but she's an avid gamer and a huge, I don't want to say nerd. She was just a fan. She's a fan of all of this. So, and she's intently a fan of all this, man. You can't get a better person to do this. So that was awesome. There's also an Image Comics Spotlight panel as well on Thursday. Friday. This was an interesting one because one of the ones that I wanted to focus on, I still haven't watched yet, was a panel called Crazy Talk, mental health, pop culture, and pandemic. And that's something I might actually even stretch over to next week because I think that's a very important panel that we all should check out. And it looks like they're focusing on a lot of the things that happens in geek culture a lot because of some of the things that I've discovered that I've even experienced myself, especially during these times. So this is going to be interesting. I highly recommend everybody to go out of their way to check that out and see if it actually, how this benefits. I am serious. I may want to go, roll this over to next week's episode to talk about that as well. Cosplay. They didn't leave you out. Spice of Life. I don't exactly know what that entails, but that's something that was a big focus I wanted to do. The Mandalorian, and his many gadgets. So there was a panel for that. DC at Home Day 1. I actually watched that one. The funny part about the DC at Home Day 1 is that they did something that happens all the time. Something that I've joked about with many other people all the time, and that is Jim Lee. Jim Lee, who introduces the panel. And then you think Jim Lee's going to be a part of the panel, but then he goes off and gives it to the moderator, who then hosts it, and it's hosted by other people and who he interviews that works for DC. So what happened here, what you just saw, was the structure of what Jim Lee does. He lures you in, and then he goes away to lead off to other things. This is exactly what happens in a comic book. When you go to a comic book store, and especially in the 90s, you go to a comic book store, and you're looking for something new to read, and you see something that has Jim Lee's artwork on the front cover. This is before the term variant covers ever, became a thing. And lo and behold, you open a book, or you don't even look. Sometimes we were kids. We were stupid. We would go home. We would buy this book because Jim Lee's on the front cover. We would go home, open up the book, and learn that Jim Lee is not the artist of the book. He's just the artist of the cover, which is now called variant covers. Back then, we gave it a term. We got Jim Lee'd. And this is exactly what happened with this panel. He started off at the beginning and then went away. So we don't get to hear Jim Lee, but he's just a lead off into everything else. So this is what Jim Lee does best, aside from doing some of the best artwork in comic book history. So that's one of his things there. But I did watch it. They were talking about some things that is going to happen in the world of DC and what they're going to do with Superman and such, and what to look out for in DC Comics. So Marvel, around the same time, like an hour later, did Marvel's next big thing, which I absolutely watched as well. Both of those panels were great as far in terms of quality and audio and stuff like that. So they did great, pre-produced well, stuff like that. Marvel, I may be interested in reading heavily, again, because there was one thing that they said that really is going to bring me back, and that is the reunited Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. I had no idea that that they brought those two back. Now, if you guys remember, during the comic book, I think it was like One More Day, I think it was called, where Mephisto, Peter Parker sacrificed his marriage, and they written off the relationship of Mary Jane and Peter Parker, and everybody was pissed off because Joe Quesada felt that like he never liked the relationship between Peter and him. And I'm like, yeah, that's you, dude. But everybody else, a lot of other people loved that relationship. Like they were, but before Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, it was Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. You know what I mean? So it was like, how dare you separate those two in this way? Are you crazy? And for years, up until this point, they went off in this situation where I don't think that Mary Jane even remembered that they were actually married because of what Mephisto did. And that was part one of what turned me off of reading comic books anymore. It was that one moment at all. Then certain artists started leaving. The art quality wasn't the same. And then later on, the writing wasn't the same. You had that situation as well. I mean, the writing was just so everywhere. And then on top of that, Marvel kept doing these huge summer blockbuster events on the comic books. And I'm like, you got to space it out. You can't have these. There's nothing to anticipate if you know that there's going to be one every year. And then you're trying to, it's like you're going you're going into the well too much. Like when when the original Secret Wars came out, that was a big event because it didn't happen years prior to. When when Infinity Gauntlet came out, it was years after Secret Wars, and there wasn't a big event that gathered everybody together. That's why when you watch all these comic book movies, they usually based it on comic books that happened in the 90s, because the 90s was the boom period of when everything was happening. It's the celebration of that era. You can't celebrate anything else in this era other than Civil War. Because Civil War was the only other big thing that they ever done that was worth putting into theaters, that made any sense and made money for them. You damn sure can't do Fear itself. I mean, you probably could. They probably could make a better movie out of Fear itself than it was the comic book. I think they can write a better movie using the Fear itself concept than they were with that. But the Fear itself was a hit or miss, and then Original Sins and all those other ones was just such a miss. And it was just like they were running out of ideas. And then what was it? Civil War 2 was good. Secret Wars 2 was good, but they kind of how they put it together was just convoluted. It was just there. But it looks like there's some things right now that Marvel Next Big Thing showed that I was very, very much intrigued by. I believe Avengers versus Fantastic Four is going to be a thing that they've been talking about for quite some time, which I think is coming in September. So there's also another book, Empire, that they're going to be focusing on, because Hawkling apparently is going to be the ruler of both the Kree and the Skrulls, which I think that's a big deal, and how he's going to be able to handle it, that's something that I was into as well. So, I mean, there's some interesting books coming out, new She-Hulk books that are coming out. So this may be getting me back into the Marvel franchise again. So I'm very interested in seeing what they're doing with that. Then there's also the AMC's The Walking Dead cast panel. Now, this panel here, I didn't see this panel, but I got to tell you, this is sad. This is sad from a standpoint that the show is no longer. Well, the show is ended, if I'm correct, and all that is left is their spinoff show. Or has it really? No, I don't think it's. I think Rick Grimes is gone, but the show. I don't know if the show is actually ended. I'm sorry, I don't think the show. I don't know if the show's ended or not, but it's in the process of possibly ready to end, if I'm correct. And this is their last panel. No, I think it's ended. Let me check just to make sure, because I am confused with this. walking. And this is obviously because I've stopped watching the show. I think right around the time they killed Glenn, I was like, I was done because it just wasn't the same afterwards, and it was just they took it right out. Okay, so it looks like it is still airing, but at the same time, you know, I do believe that show has lost a lot of viewers during this time. So let me see. 11 season. Nope, it looks like they're going to be airing in 2020. So that's awesome. But Rick Grimes is going too. So this is like life after Rick Grimes. Norman Reedus is still there. A lot of the other actors is still there. Michonne is still there as well. No guarantees any of that is going to be there when he left. But that was the awesome part about the show, is that they were going in the direction of the comic, but now they're so far removed from the comic that, you know, it's going to be hard for them to see what direction they're going with this now, because there are people that should have been dead a long time ago that are still alive, and there are people who were alive in the comic but that is dead now in the show. So they have gone into their own, they ventured off into their own means of the show at this point. So but at this term, it's sad because this was usually one of the biggest comic book TV shows ever at the time. And, man, I remember when Jeffrey Dean Morgan came in and he killed off Glenn and he killed off a lot of the other folks. And that was the beginning of the downfall of that show for me. And then shortly afterwards, like anything that didn't have Jeffrey Dean Morgan in there, any episode that didn't have Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan, it was boring. So, you know, it was a lot. It was a lot for that. So you had that. I did also, going on to other panels, I did see the Bob's Burger panel. I was looking forward to that. I actually, sadly, was disappointed by this, I believe. Like, it was okay, but there were some issues with that one as well. Like, there were some Zoom issues. Like, I don't know if didn't know how to operate Zoom to some extent. Let me tell you, looking at some of these panels, watching some of these panels, these virtual panels, made me feel a lot better about the one that I did with the cast of Naruto, because, you know, I was told that it was really good. I told that it was very entertaining, but in terms of technical issues or stuff, we had none. As far as video or disruptions or anything, or video quality, we had none. You know, we had no problems with that. I think the only one was Brian Donovan. Brian Donovan was the only one that had some audio issues with him, but everybody else was fine. I think he might have been using his phone and stuff like that at the time. But it was really for the most part, for the majority of it, it was really well done. And I was worried because we had like about 50 fans in that panel as well watching, and as we were talking, so it worked out. But the Bob's Burger one, it was okay. It was okay. It didn't really, I don't even remember anything significant. I don't think they really talked too much about the show in a sense of what they were doing. But there were some funny things in the moment. They did actually show some footage of things, and it was well produced on that note. But there was times when the actor who plays Bob was going in and out. Not by his own merit. He was being kicked out of some course. But then later on, they were adding in more fans to the Zoom chat so they can answer questions. That, you know, when it got to that point, the panel itself got better. But one of the most significant things to talk about in this panel was, in fact, they were focusing on representation. Actually, the panel was funny because it didn't feel like a panel as much as it did a meeting, like an inside meeting that they had with each other. And they talked about representation to that extent. It felt more like they were talking about female representation for the show as opposed to race-based representation. But they were talking about in terms of, because some of the actors who play some of the roles are actually men. I'll give you an example. The role of Linda Belcher is played by John Roberts, who is a man. He does a very good job on his role. And they were talking about possibly, you know, maybe changing those roles or making it more appropriate. But I think Louise Belcher herself, Kristen Shaw, had a great idea. And I thought this was awesome. I thought this was a really awesome idea. And this may be the thing that changes. Is if you're going to do that, if you're going to have somebody like play a female play a male role, or male role play a female role, switch them. Have a balance of that. Do a swap, if you will. That could possibly work in all terms as well. Because we had this discussion in our A.C.M.G Facebook group in regards to making sure that everybody's playing their proper representation. And this was the result of their other show, Central Park. Christian Bell, stepped down to not play the role that she's playing because it was a girl of color. Mike Henry, we talked about that, who plays Cleveland Brown, will also be stepping down as well. Now, if you all know, Phil Lamar plays a whole bunch of different roles, and some of them are white guys too. He plays Aquaman. If they switch it around to the point that people can do swap roles and be cool about it, but they do it in a very respectful way, I think that can work. I think she was on the right mindset by doing that. And I think if they do that, I don't think people will be too offended by that, especially if they do the roles respectfully. So that was one of the things that they focused on. And the other big thing that they focused on was, in fact, that they announced that Bob's Burger in 2021 will have a movie coming out. Excuse me. I am actually excited about this. This is actually pretty cool. Like, they're getting a movie way earlier before The Simpsons. Now, granted, it is safe to say that The Simpsons could have had their damn movie a long time ago, but they waited out till 20 years later to do so. Family Guy, surprisingly, is not coming out with a movie yet, and they never announced it, nor do they really need to, in a sense. But, I think a Bob's Burger movie can work. I think it could work. It'll be really interesting to see how they will write this and how will it, in terms of, how well this will be. But I like the show in general. It reminds me of Fishtown here in Philadelphia. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. This should be awesome. But overall, it started out as a okay panel, but turned out to be a better panel by the end, especially when it got to the point with the getting the fans in to answer all these questions, all the questions that they want to. And there were some really good questions that they were asking there as well. So kudos to them on that. Another panel for Todd McFarlane was on Friday as well. Comic-Con, Robert Kirkman at home. God, let me tell you, I went to the panel when I was there in 2017 that they joined together, Robert Kirkman and Todd McFarlane. Now, watching them do this at home is nowhere near as great as watching them do it on stage live. I can't tell you how funny those two are together. They are. Robert Kirkman especially is hilarious. Like, this is the guy who created The Walking Dead, and he can do his own stand-up. I mean, but him talking about a lot of, and by the way, watch his Secrets of Comic Book History series that AMC did for with him. They are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Especially the one on Milestone Comics and the history of African Americans and comics. So great, man. But seeing him on a panel was good, but not as nearly as good as it is in person. Like, some of these panels I think would have been much better in person. The Bob's Burger panel I think would have been much, much better in person, because not only do you get a different atmosphere from the crowd participation and the crowd, the attendees there, and where you're at, like a hall, that would have been a ballroom 20 type of panel right there. I guarantee it. But not only that, but also, I think the actors themselves would have been a little bit more, into it and a lot more excited and just being immersed in the atmosphere. And you could tell because they were at home. Some of them, I don't want to say they were phoning it in, but some of them were just, we're in these times. This is what we got to do, but let's do this, and they were having, and some of them were just having fun, just getting to see each other, which is the same what they were in the Naruto panel. But we did get to talk a lot about the show because I was, moderating the questions out to have them talk about the show. And when I watched some of these virtual panels, it made me appreciate the work that we all did for our panel and what all the actors did in doing so to entertain the people that was in there as well. So, they didn't have, they were, there were times where we were talking among ourselves, a little chatty, but then there were times where we went straight into the questions of the show. So there were panels here that kind of went off a little bit of the mark on that. So, but everybody did pretty much a fair job at best. Some people did a really, really good job. I think the Archer panel was the biggest kind of disappointment to me. And this had Aisha Tyler in there as well, but she didn't moderate the whole thing. Because they weren't necessarily talking about the show, and they couldn't talk about any part of the show, but they still could talk about some of the show. But it felt like more of just a conversation within them and them not realizing that they were here to talk about the show. And all through the majority of the show, they were just, chatting. Chris Parnell didn't feel like he was, all into it. His son actually had more enthusiasm than he did of being on camera for this. And, of course, you never know what people are going through in their lives, but the fact that they were in there and doing it, so I do appreciate that, to that extent. But it was okay. It would just, I think if all of them, I would have loved to hear more about the show rather than what they were draking. And Judy Greer, I loved watching Judy Greer. She was kind of the highlight of that panel in there as well. Then Friday, we also ended it off with the hip hop and comics culture combination panel with Mega Ran and a host of others. Lars is in air as well, and not Lars. Was it Lars? Yeah. And the biggest surprise for the hip hop and comics combo this year was that they got Play from Kid and Play on air. Christopher Martin was on air because they covered a segment on there where they were talking about how successful Kid and Play was and how they ended up getting their own comic book and their own cartoon. If some of you were growing up with me, we got to see that cartoon on NBC Saturday mornings, which was awesome. And it was great to hear him talk about his experience and getting a comic book and all that stuff in there, because in prior years they never had Play. And what I loved about this panel this year, it wasn't really a panel. They did it documentary style. And I thought it was really awesome that they did that in a way that they were able to do it. So, I really enjoyed it. And they did talk about a lot of the things that, they would normally talk about at the panels and everything. And it was basically all the same people that normally does the panel, and the same people that was there when I was there when I saw it live. So I thought they did a really, really good job in that. They changed it. They did it differently from what everybody else was doing and doing it that way. And then we got Saturday. We got Saturday's panels, which some of the panels that I was looking to check out is the Udon Entertainment 20th anniversary panel. There you got DC at Home Day 2. You got another one that was From Wakanda to Nambana was one I was looking to check out. The Art of Adapting Comics to the Screen is something I think everybody should look at too. I think that's a panel that really will focus on the misconceptions that people think that they have towards, adapting the source books to, the screen, to the big screen. You had Jim Lee's X-Men's Artist Edition Spotlight, which is something that I need to watch too. The American Dad cast panel, which I still haven't watched yet. Guillermo del Toro and Scott Cooper was another one. Rooster Teeth one is the one I saw. Rooster Teeth got me so excited about what's coming next week, what I'll be reviewing next week, and that is Transformers War on Cybertron Siege. We got a clip of that. They got to talk about certain things, one of which blew my mind, because this is going to be, they explained that it was going to be focused on, this is the prequel to G1. So this is them in Cybertron before they ever hit Earth. And one of the things that they're going to talk about, or we're going to see, is Teletran 1, which most people in the G1 fandom knows that is the supercomputer that the Autobots would use during ships and everything. It's their artificial intelligence. But lo and behold, what we didn't know, what we're going to discover, thanks to them, is that Teletran 1 is not just a computer. He was actually a bot. He was actually an Autobot. So I'm excited about seeing that, amongst other things. The trilogy is coming next week. Is on Thursday, the 30th. It's going to be premiering. So So can't wait for that. They also talked about Ruby. They also talked about Red versus Blue, which is coming out. I like the fact that Rooster Teeth is made up of a diverse group of people. The director of some of the shows is black, and I was definitely appreciative of that. Some of the writers of the studios as well. I really need to invest in Rooster Teeth a little bit more. I've watched Ruby before. I haven't finished it, but I've noticed the evolution of their animation as well has done tremendous as well for there. So I love that panel. And how about this? Rooster Teeth's panel was the best looking panel of all the panels that I've watched this entire weekend so far. It was the best. I mean, like, and I'm talking like I watch panels who were using Zoom chats that didn't have the visual quality or the audio quality that Rooster Teeth did. Oh my God, the lighting, the visuals and lighting and everything of each of their rooms were so well done. The audio was so well done. It looked spectacular. Like, best in show was Rooster Teeth, in my opinion. Of course, I'm saying that based on what I've just saw. I have not seen every single panel yet, but I intend to watch as many as possible. I've learned that even during quarantine time and virtual time, you don't have that many hours in a day to watch all the panels that you want to watch. Each panel is like an hour pop at best, minimum. So I did see the Family Guy panel, which I thought was the most entertaining of the panels. Seth MacFarlane and Seth Green and Mila Kunis and the entire cast and the rest of the cast were all there. And what was so great about that is that they did a actual table read for Family Guy. What was so awesome about that is that they did a table read basically of one of the old episodes. I believe one episode of season 4. I forgot what episode it was, but nonetheless, Alex Borstein, who is one of my all-time... she is so freaking talented. If you watch her, not only just as Lois Griffin, but you watch her on the adventures of Miss Maisel. And I'm probably saying that title wrong, but she's the co-star of Mrs. Maisel. And what they did was they recited a scene on... she recited a scene on Family Guy, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, I should say, is what she plays in. They did a table read for one of the episodes of season 4. What they did though was remix it because when Peter does his side bit or whatever like that, where he just automatically thinks of something and then it appears. I forgot what they call those, but he did one, and then they did a bit of Alex doing a Karen bit, which was never done before because the term Karen, the racist Karens that we've been seeing around the country, hasn't been a term till this year. And they changed that bit to do a Karen bit, and it was hilarious. I highly recommend everybody going out of their way to watching this bit. And then even better because after they did the table read, they also talked about the series and how long it's been around. But before that, and kudos to Seth MacFarlane because he was the only one that I think that has done this. They went out their way to talk about voting and how important it is to vote this year, and what they're doing with Fox and what Fox is doing this year to get younger people to vote, no matter impartial. It was an impartial thing. They weren't saying who is to vote for. They just saying go out and vote. It's very important that the young kids vote more than ever. And I absolutely agree. It's something that we actually did talk about in our panel with the cast of Naruto. Mary Elizabeth brought it up herself. And yes, we need you to get out there and vote. If you understand the chaos that is going on this year, a lot of it is because a lot of people didn't vote. And then furthermore, some other things that we are not going to talk about because this is not a political show, but it is very important that you speak your voice because your voice is very important and you make yourself seen and heard in the midst of all this. So if this year didn't demonstrate that, that's one thing. But, they talked about their experiences on the show. They answer some of the questions on the show. I thought this was a very entertaining panel. I loved it. I really much enjoyed it. Last one I have to see was Sailor Moon cast panel, which included one of my old previous guests, Amanda Celine Miller, on there as well, to talk about the fandom that is Sailor Moon. Probably, aside from Rooster Teeth, Rooster Teeth is actually not even anime, it's anime influenced. But Sailor Moon is actually the only anime panel that I've seen in here. Now, I know Tokyo Pop also did one for manga as well. So, I mean, that's something very interesting to note on that. Another one that I was going to see some honorable mentions here was Afrofuturism, which is Black to the Future. That's a panel I need to check out. And the Evening with Kevin Smith as well. I think that's another thing I'll never be able to do. If I get to see any type of Q&A or something with Kevin Smith in there, I would be really surprised. So, that was all the panels that I was able to see. But guess what? There are dozens more panels other than what I mentioned there. I mean, that's what San Diego Comic-Con is in a nutshell. It is an abundance of all of the things that we love for 4 days. I mean, 3 days, depending on what time you get there. I remember the first year I got there Wednesday because I missed preview night, and I was mad that I missed preview night because I was told that there was something great there. Then the second time I went, I actually made it to preview night and realized how much of a waste that was because they really didn't do anything. I think that was the year that Black Lightning was going to premiere, and they were going to suppose that there was talks that they were going to show a episode of Black Lightning. We never saw it. We saw all these shows that I now can say I knew was going to get canceled, and that's exactly what happened. So that was a waste of a night from that note, and that's San Diego Comic-Con in a nutshell. For what it's worth, I think everybody that was involved in this very trying structure that they were doing, they reconfigured everything to try to accommodate fans, and again, giving it to us for free. I can't thank San Diego Comic-Con International enough, and everybody that was involved in that. Thank you, because for fans that love this event every year, at least we got something, and to give it to us for free, I can't. That's an awesome thing to do, because they didn't have to. And because they didn't do this, and I can't stress this out again, I will say this, they spent money that they're not getting back to do this. This is a big financial loss, more than it is a gain. But they did it because they are fans of us. That's speaking volumes. They did not have to do this at all. And I commend them for all of them, everybody. Because trust me, these panels with some of the celebrities in there, they're not doing it for free. I would be really surprised if they're doing it for free, or if they're doing it for charity to some extent. I know they're not doing this for free. So they're spending money paying off those people. I can tell you that right now. So thank you. Thank you for this weekend. Thank you for giving me something to talk about on this show, of course. And, keeping it going. And hopefully, we can all be healthy and alive to be able to enjoy this next year and the years going beyond that, because I said it every year and I say it again. If you're a fan of any of this, if you're a fan of all of this, once in your life, at least one time, you need to go to San Diego Comic-Con. And it is the mecca of all things anime, comics, movies, and games for a reason, folks. So kudos to them. And again, two things. Let's mask up, let's keep safe, and let's vote in November so we can have this type of opportunity and fun. Folks, that will do it for this edition of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I want to thank all of you for listening, all of our new listeners out there, and Podbean, and now Tune In by Amazon Alexa. And you are now on that station as well. So thank you, and hello to all the listeners out there who listen to Tune In. And Podbean, thank you. God, we're now. When I first talked about it, we were in 1,100 followers on that page. It is now. The new number now is 1.5K. We are now 500 followers, and it is still growing. It is still growing, people. So thank you so much for investing in this. Thank you, Podbean, for even putting us out there and letting people finally see the quality that A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live has. We're quite honored, and we're keeping it going and keeping it growing always. Thank you so much. If you are a listener of this show, or if you're new to the show, you have plenty of places to check this show out. You could go on TalkTimeLive.com, the official website for TalkTimeLive.com, or for Talk Time Live podcast. You could go there, and what's significant about that is that you could go on there. You could check out all of our previous episodes that we just did. Every new episode will be uploaded there. But also, there's a section just for the exclusive interviews that we have on this show. And speaking of exclusive interviews, I will announce here right now, our next Talk Time Live exclusive guest, coming off of the Naruto panel, is none other, and I just mentioned him, is none other than Rock Lee himself, Brian Donovan. Brian Donovan will be on the show in August to talk about his work on the show, his work as an actor, and a documentary that he has worked on prior to. So we'll be talking about a lot of that and having a lot of fun. He is an absolutely nice guy. I'm looking forward to talking about him. He's a laid-back dude. He's a very conscious guy, and you know, you could tell when you first hear him. If you go out of your way to listen to the Naruto podcast, if you haven't listened to that with the entire, well, not the entire cast, but like 9 of the big cast members from the show, I had a chance of moderating and, talking with on that show. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome to talk with them, but significantly him, there's a free spirit about him that I think we're going to enjoy, picking his brain about and talking about. And I'm looking forward to it. So Brian Donovan will be on the show in August. We have already locked it in. So looking forward to that. And he is going to be a great show, as always. So I wanted to do that on Zoom, but I don't trust Zoom right now. And he's not savvy with Teams yet. So we're going to Skype it. And this is going to be audio only for right now. So definitely be on the lookout for that as well. But you can also check out this show. You can subscribe and download to this show, I should say, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Pocket Cast, and now TuneIn, aka Alexa, Amazon, or Amazon Alexa as well. So all these different formats, you can check it out. And it's just great that we are growing this community of people that are checking out this content as well. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for tolerating me during this entire time as I'm sweating profusely with no fans on. Trust me, when those fans come on, it's going to be like Cal going to take me away. I know older people would understand that reference, but thank you guys again. And next week, we will be reviewing Transformers War on Cybertron Siege that's coming out for Netflix on behalf of Rooster Teeth. So get ready to check that out, and all the news that is going to be coming out for that week as well. Any video game news? Maybe I'll do a select start episode next week, because it depends on what news comes out. I have Fairy Tail, which is coming out on Friday, and I'm gonna need time to play that game to give my thorough review of that. Remember, this is an RPG game, and I'm not a fan of RPG games, even though I am replaying Final Fantasy VII right now to prove a point here. But I am gonna play that, see if I really, really enjoy, if I can really change my thought about turn-based RPGs, and will I be a fan of the Fairy Tail series because of this game? So there's 2 things that I'm going to be looking for, and I need time to work on that. So that is all going to happen afterwards. But if we got any major news going on in the week, or maybe if there's something I can like review or check out, maybe another retro game or whatever, I may do that. But if not, I may hold off on doing another episode for like at least till the next week from there. But we'll see. Not to mention, it is hot as hell in this office. So we'll hold off for that, but we will have more episodes coming very soon. So, folks, thanks again. That'll do it for me on behalf of myself. This is Dex Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Folks, thank you. Take care. Mask up. Be safe. So long. Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.